Welcome back to the Topping Off podcast. Today I'm talking to Marika Deliyannides and Audrey Janis from House Crush Studio in Calgary. Marika has built an award-winning all-female design build firm known for warm minimalism and a fixed-cost approach that tells clients final number before the work even starts. She's a Calgary home show veteran, which is right up our alley in our home show series. Marika and Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So first things first, let's get a lay of the land. Tell us about House Crush and how you got started.
Well, I would say very simple beginnings. The first two of us, myself and Jackie, well, I guess, I'll go back a little bit before that. When I renovated my kitchen, we worked with an architect and a designer, and the only condition I had was that I could be involved, because my whole life I have loved interior design. I have a degree in English, and I'm a writer, but my kids were getting to that sort of young teenage years where I wanted to do something new. And when we did my kitchen, we worked together. The designer and I worked together so well. She said, just reach out if you ever want to do this again. And a few years later, I did. And so I worked with her, learned an awful lot, which I'm very grateful for. And then started getting my own referrals and decided to go out on my own. But what I found was that there was a bit of imposter syndrome, where people were very, not everyone, but Jackie and I were getting questions, are you professional designers, which we weren't. But we were doing the work. And so that was sort of one part of it. The other part of it was that I saw quickly that there was much more revenue potential in doing the entire renovation, not just the design. I call that a pink job. People don't often like to pay for design, but they will never question the cost of, putting up drywall or framing or whatnot. So we had always started from the beginning as a renovation company, as a company that did design, but also their own renovations. So we had a small crew, a really great crew. And so when we were in those early days of branding the company or refining what we looked like, we decided to really capture the renovation part of things. And that has proven to be really successful, because we are a full service company. So we start with the design, and of course, that's the exciting part. And I think our clients really love that part, and so do we. But we have amazing crew members, and we have definitely expanded our crew team. Really talented team. And as time went on and we got bigger and busier, with just a niche we've fallen into pretty naturally. It's really nice to see a project from beginning to the end as well.
Sure. And Audrey, how did you enter the company?
Marika was actually posted in a design group that I was a part of, that she was looking for an admin position. And she's like, this is a very special role that I need, and I need someone that's detail-oriented, has a bit of a background in ordering and accounting. And so I actually sent that link to my friend who I worked with for 8 years. And I said, this is a perfect role for you. So Marika hired Patty. And a few months later, she goes, we're looking for another designer, someone that, has a really strong technical background that can bring to the table, like drawings and specifications, that kind of stuff. And Patty was like, you need to call Audrey. So my friend Patty and I are reunited and working with House Crush, and it's been fantastic.
How about that? That's great.
Yeah, they're quite a team, Patty and Audrey. They give us a laugh. But yeah, so we started with the two of us, and then Allison joined our team. And then as we grew, we worked with Michelle, who did a lot of our drawings. But we just got too busy to handle all of it. And so we began to scale up. And so I think Audrey is one of the newest team members, but certainly brings such technical skills in her drawings and in her construction knowledge. Super. Our guys are really happy working with her, and we're now a team, including our admin, of 9 females. And our clients really, I think, like that sort of, I would say, the communication is really good. And I think part of that is that we're communicating often, um, well, typically in a couple, the wife will contact us first. And so we have the discovery call, which is our first order of process with the wife. And there's often, I think Audrey would agree, there's a lot of, there's just a genuine, on our part, a genuine desire to make a home. Well, I guess if we have a tagline, it's that we want you to fall in love with your house again. So that's the energy that we bring.
And which came first, the tagline or the name House Crush?
House Crush.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through a few. I can't even remember them anymore, but we just sort of landed on that. And it's funny because we thought we want everybody to have a crush on their home, right? And that for me, and I think for everybody on the team, we've always had that in maybe slightly different areas. So Michelle on our team tells me she used to always move things or little pieces of furniture around to create space. And I always would decorate my room incessantly over and over again. So it's about just being in love with your space. And I think that's something that if you hire a general contractor, and I certainly can't speak to everyone's process, but I know for us, that's focus first.
Certainly. Now, what is sort of we've talked a lot about the office team. How many sort of like projects concurrently are you at per year now?
Well, some small, some larger. I would say that the last year's been interesting. It's been the most interesting year that we've had, and not necessarily in a great way. I found that in September we had, with the tariff talks, a lot of clients that I believe would have gone forward normally got cold feet. The war in Iran, the general instability of the world has certainly reached Canada and affected that. I'd see right now, though, things are just booming. So in the first couple of years, like any startup company, we smaller jobs, we'll take anything. We just want to, learn. We want to get out there. We want to get our name out there. By about year 3, we did our first home show and we just exploded. So on a revenue basis, we doubled in 6 months, which was significant, and then did that again a year later. So it's been going like this. The past year, though, has been an interesting challenge, and as it starts doing this again, I'm so happy and grateful to have the team that I have, because we really we're really scalable. We're able to kind of go up and down. So Audrey, for example, also has her own company where she does her own projects. Most of my team, half of my team, is like that. So it's just a collaborative team where Michelle, for example, on our team, we just had her doing drawings. She contracted her to do drawings, and she's now become an invaluable member of our team. But everybody has, or not everybody, but half of our team has their own projects as well. And so I hope, and I'm sure Audrey can speak to this, is that I feel really strongly that we all learn from each other. We want to mentor each other. I learned a ton from my team. I hope they've learned from me. And we just bring our best ideas forward. And also, I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. So if there's something that House Crush specifically is doing that will help Audrey, for example, with one of her projects, go for it. It's a collaboration.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. Audrey, anything you want to add to that?
As a solo entrepreneur, it's been really nice being a part of a team again. So it's really interesting how Marika's doing it. I feel like she is running a business very differently than how anyone else does it. I don't know if you want to speak to the process, just kind of how you jump right in and just start right with planning.
Sure. Yeah.
Go for it, Audrey.
Okay, so everyone else, when you are starting working on a design plan, people take deposits up front, whereas with House Crush, we go right to it. Our first meeting on site is complimentary. We do site measures and we right away start with a design plan and we present best design first. If the clients are happy with it, we plan a trade stay. Those guys go on site and we have a really accurate quote to the client within a couple weeks of when we first meet with them typically. So it's just really, really different. I haven't worked with a company that's worked that way before. I don't really know anyone else doing it, and it's been very successful, I think.
It sounds like it's probably a big market differentiator, right? If you're getting people excited about the dream of what their space could look like before they have to spend any money or sign anything. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, of course, I've been questioned on that many times. But I do believe that if a client is looking to invest typically hundreds of thousands of dollars into a renovation, I don't need a $300 deposit. I'd like you to meet us. I'd like you to see that our design is really good. I'd like you to get excited. If I just send an estimator out, which many companies do, they'll estimate it. Someone in the head office marks it up 50%. They don't get to see any design. They just get their number. And that isn't the way I would want to design my home. So yeah, we're a fixed cost pricing company. So we have to be very, very careful with costs, Kevin, because if we're not, we're eating it, right? So our clients do like that this is just a guesstimate, but I would say the last year has been different because I think a lot of projects have not, it's not that they haven't gone with us, they just haven't gone forward at all. The economy has been global events and the economy have really, I think, made a lot of people hesitate. But I would say typically, probably 80 to 90% of the jobs we get, but you have to understand, we've been in their homes several times, they've met us, we've probably had some good laughs. We've shown the actual drawings, the layout, the material selections. It's really, the job is 80% done before we're even signing a contract. So our potential clients, I think, feel very comfortable with that process. And they've also at that point met our crew at Trades Day. So for Trades Day, we do it one big chaotic group. We come in, we have coffee and donuts. Client gets to meet the crew. Crew can talk together about how their areas of the job affect each other's. And then all of the quotes come into me, or someone like Audrey, who might be the project manager for that job. It's all put together into a fixed cost pricing proposal along with the design. We don't hand our design over unless we're the chosen contractor, because obviously that is not a good business model. But at that point, I find we've answered all the questions. We've given you design you're really happy with, a cost that you know from the beginning you'll pay at the end. And yeah, I think Audrey's right. That has made House Crush quite a successful company, and we were really only in our 6th year. And I think competing with companies that are much more long-standing.
What is you talked about the importance of cost control because you have a fixed price. So what does the handoff look like and the management and supervision look like of your build teams?
Of our build teams? So typically we have, so I'll just use Audrey as an example. She's working right now on a bit of a complicated project where, we have abatement, we have, it's an older house. I would say, Audrey, not particularly well built, or there have been shortcuts taken. So in the first meeting, I'll typically always be there. And Audrey would be, for example, the design lead or the project manager, and we would have design support. So someone else in our team would be helping. Audrey does the construction drawings, so she would start measuring. we would have a bit more of a design meeting with our design support person. So on our team, one of the other designers would be there, and I'd be kind of floating back and forth. And then that Audrey puts everything together, and and the space planning. I think on our team we do excellent space planning. And we have the benefit of 6 design eyes on that plan. So we have weekly team meetings, and we'll look over the drawings. And I don't know what you think, Audrey, but I think it's really helpful because, someone might say, hey, how about moving this or flipping this? Even if I don't do drawings, but that doesn't mean, I can't have a good opinion on something. And we're very, no big egos on our team. So then Audrey will put together the layout, and working with someone from our team, another designer from our team, we'll start really honing in on what that final plan and design looks like. We put it all into a design concept, so that would include, some inspiration images, but also right now we're finding really helpful for clients is we can take a picture of their space and through AI show them what it will look like when we're done, which has been really fun lately. So that design package, includes some of those images, but also some material selections, the drawings, and answers, I hope, the questions that they want answered. And then when the contract is signed, then we move into the construction phase, which of course includes demo day, and then just as the trades roll out, depending on the size of the project. And so on our team, we manage everything ourselves in terms of project management. And so Audrey would be working directly with our crew to make sure that we're, not having too many dead days on site, that if there are tricky bits, she can call in our site supervisor, Daniel, who will, come and look over everything. He's also in charge of quality control. So, and then as we get closer to, at the beginning of the project, we also start talking to them about furnishings and how they want the space to look. So Audrey right now on this particular project I'm talking about has just put together a furniture plan and quote for the clients as well. Am I missing anything, Audrey?
I would just say the construction documents are a really important part. So as we work through the design process, we're also building elaborate construction documents. They have demolition plans. They have electrical plans. We work out where the dimmers are going, tile layouts. All of these details are worked out with the clients and with the contractors before the project, before the, hammer hits the walls. Construction is expensive. And planning is where the mistakes are affordable. So we try to kind of mitigate what we can with a really comprehensive plan before we move into the construction side of stuff.
Yeah, we don't start, Kevin, until we have everything picked out. And then as soon as the first deposit comes in, we're ordering so that we're not, in the middle of a job. And often clients want to live through their renovations. So we don't want to be waiting 3 weeks for tile that we should have ordered. So we have a very detailed spreadsheet as well, where this is where we order, this is when we need it. And so, for everything, rough-ins need to be on site. Patty and Cynthia on our team, because they're probably going to watch this, and Patty's going to want a shout out. So yeah, they're amazing. They take care of all of the ordering and the administration and keeping us on schedule as well. And so different when I think about just Jackie and I at the beginning, trying to do all of that, and we did it. But it's a more fun, and it's a more collaborative, and it's a much easier process right now. And I've learned a lot from my team, especially the ones who have their own clients in addition to House Crush clients. We've really, I would say, Audrey, really shaped and streamlined to get to here. And there's still lots of work to do, but we continue to make that a process.
I love the idea of you sort of saying how your design team collaborates on every project almost. You sort of said you have your team meeting and they sort of like workshop everything. I think that's such a great way to catch things, that, as you said, it's cheaper to fix in planning. And then two, we can just amplify the results. That's a very interesting approach. Audrey, how much time would you say, like, do you have to go during the project? Like, how frequently are you visiting the site?
Um, this one, the abatement just finished, so I haven't been on site for a couple weeks, but typically I go and check in on projects every week or maybe every 2 weeks if Marika's going to be stopping by. We are definitely chatting all the time. I feel like I'm best friends with my lead contractors. I just talk to them every morning. Hey, what are you doing? So, um, it's a lot, all hands on deck when you're doing project management, but we also use Notion, which has really helped we have our schedule for every single project in there. We're all kind of chatting through it, assigning each other tasks, which is hysterical and kind of fun. And that's also where the spreadsheet lives with all of the project tracking details. So
So you guys have, I think, a very strong design aesthetic, which I know we said pre-recording. You are there to make the client happy. So I guess, would you say that there is a pattern of you swaying the client towards your design aesthetic, or sort of like do they gravitate to you because they saw your work and they sort of like what you're already doing?
I would say I always tell clients in the discovery call, toward the end of the call, I'll ask them, well, often it comes up earlier, of course, but sometimes I will say, okay, we haven't talked style at all. I would say about 30% of the clients say, I know exactly what I like. I'm going to send you my pin board. A third say, I don't know what it's called, but this is the style I like. And they kind of describe it. And I say, okay, so I know pretty much immediately what they're talking about. And then we have about a third of clients who say, I have no idea. Can you give me some style? And it's all fun. Um, we certainly wouldn't be giving our clients value if we just went in and gave them what they wanted, because what a lot of clients are looking at are show homes or magazines, and we want to do something better than that. We want to make every home unique. So we're not shy in opinion, but we're definitely not pushy. So sometimes it's a practical matter. A client might say, yeah, that's lovely, but my dog will chew it up. I'm like, okay, got it. Or, my kid, everything fancy has to be above 3 feet because I have a toddler. So a lot of our design, I think, is what I would kind of call grow into design, where we're like, okay, you're at this stage in life. I have a 19 and a 21-year-old, so they're, grown. But I do remember there were certain times when they were toddlers, or teenagers, the spaces change, right? At one point you think you're going to never stop stepping on Lego, and on the other few years later, you're like, God, can they get off of their screens and like it just the Xboxes and whatever. So I think and that is, I think, a benefit, and that this is probably, Kevin, why I think a lot of the wives on our team in particular, or sorry, the wives of our client wives, tend to feel comfortable with us, because we know there are three things that clients are particularly concerned about and often don't want to hire a designer. They just want the GC to come in and do what they want, but they're not happy with that either, because it's not really, their house now looks like everybody else's, right? So, number one thing is budget creep. And so fixed cost pricing addresses that. The other one is that they don't want an intimidating designer to come into their home and tell them that their house looks horrible, that their style is not satisfactory, and that they need to do it our way. Would you say, Audrey?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's overwhelming for clients. They just don't really know what to expect at first. So we do a lot of hand holding at House Crush, and I think it's really helpful to clients. And just like building that trust is so important as you move into the actual renovation, because it's stressful, it's unpredictable, and having that level of trust before you get started in the reno, I think, is really like a bit of a game changer in terms of how smooth the renovation will go.
I don't think I even realized fully, Kevin, until I got into this industry, um, how important home was to people. I mean, I always knew, of course, home is important to everybody, but it's a really emotional industry for clients. And mm, probably, I'm curious to see what Audrey has to say, but I would say probably like, I can't really give a percentage, but maybe half is talking clients down a little bit to say, of course you feel this way. Like, I get it, right? Recently, my husband and I sold our home to downsize, and I had sort of a month of what I would call a light crew in here, just getting things polished up. And I thought, oh, the disruption. And this is our crew. These are our guys. We know them, right? We're super comfortable with them, but it's really hard to work when they're sawing. And again, this was not a major renovation in my home. It was, mostly exterior and just some polishing. So it was a good reminder for me, but it is, yeah, it's a very different industry. It's very different than, for example, someone who might say, I want to sell my house, but I want it staged and I'll be out of there while you stage it, right? When it's happening and you're living through it and you have dust and you're thinking so it's hard. And I always tell the clients, you like us, we like you. You'll be glad to see the end of us, but we'll still be friends because everybody wants it to end at some point. There's a point in that. And I think that's where, we try and be really sensitive. We say, okay, we're at that point. Remember, I reminded you, you're going to want us gone. We're still here, but we recognize that.
Did you create with your crew sort of like any formalized process to minimize the amount of impact while they're working?
The amount, Audrey can probably weigh in here.
I think keeping the job site really tidy is important. A lot of our clients live through the process. Um, I think Marika is really good about sending little thoughtful things throughout the process too, like flowers or, something else if depending on the client. But I think that that's helpful. And then I think that communication is really the most important part. If you kind of just, if something comes up and you're just letting it sit unspoken, it's a real problem. So we do weekly check-in. Like every Thursday, we send a project update where we're at, what's been going on, what's next week look like. There's definitely a fine line. If you give too many details to a client about the schedule, it's a nightmare. And if you don't give enough, then that's really stressful for them. So I think, we kind of walk that line of what are some of the things happening next week without giving you the times, the dates, and the exacts. And then just making sure that the products are on site when you need them. That seems to have gotten a little bit more complicated since COVID, but I feel like we still do a pretty good job of managing that.
Shout out to Patty for that.
I saw one of your Instagram photos. We were about to start demo on, I think it was a hallway, and it was like so immaculately taped off and papered out and everything. I was thinking, yeah, there's not going to be a speck of dust on this place when they get done that. It's great.
Yeah, I think that would have been a pretty recent post. Yeah, our demo guys are amazing with the prep. The zippered doors and everything shut off. The doors, the front doors protected. But we've learned, it's not, Kevin, like we started like that. I mean, we paid for a few doors that got damaged, so now we know better, right? It's certainly. I don't mean to imply like we've been. We've learned a lot of lessons over this time, and a lot of lessons I've learned from my team, from our crew, which is amazing. Um, it's really nice to work with people who have great ideas and I think aren't afraid to share them.
For sure. And we've talked a lot about different projects and clients. Do you look for a particular type of client? Like, do you have sort of like a defined target customer, or, I guess, what is that approach like?
I'm still waiting for a client who says budget is no option and my house is 10,000 square feet and you can do whatever you like to it.
You have to
No,
cross into Montana and get that Los Angeles crowd, I think.
okay, well, maybe. Um, do we look for a typical kind of client? No, they're all very different people. I think when they end up going with us, what I do appreciate about our clients a lot is, and that maybe is part of our process where, they get to know us before they start working with us, which is important, is that they do build a trust in us, right, Audrey? Like where, once they get to know us through that initial discovery process, then I'm looking for a client who is willing to collaborate, who is willing to put trust in us, who, I mean, there are red flags sometimes. We
Yeah.
discuss that. We discuss that. We have a list. Um, and that is meant to protect both client and house crush from having a bad experience. Um, I think sometimes, I think it's actually bad business to ignore red flags. We want everyone to have a great experience, including ourselves. Audrey?
With House Crush, I would say that the clients are really all over the place. I think that because Marika has such a diverse team, like Sophia is another amazing team member, and I think that you kind of assign projects based on personalities and how you kind of think that the designers will mesh or like the specialty of the designer, which I think is helpful. I know in my own business, I have a very strong target market. It's empty nesters. I design a lot of aging in place projects. So it's interesting when clients come through House Crush. There's so many. It's
They're
so
so
diverse.
varied, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, such a varied, but that's actually fun. I mean, sort of initially, Kevin, I thought, oh, like, I know sort of the look that I love and what I would love to specialize in and be known as. And we've never reached that because, we have so many different clients. I think there is if House Crush had one specific aesthetic, I knew in my mind what that would look like for me. Um, but I don't even think it would be the same for every one of my team members. And I kind of like that. Every now and then like right now, we're working on a heritage home. It's a lovely home. And of course, the kitchen can't be modern. It has to have a traditional flair, but it doesn't need to look like everyone's traditional kitchen. It doesn't need to look like Granny's kitchen. It needs to be beautiful and timeless and charming. And so that's super fun, even though that's not necessarily my style. I'm working on my own home right now that my husband and I are moving into, and that's kooky. I live in a 100-year-old house right now, and we're moving to something that is got, I don't know, Audrey, kind of I'm going for more of a New York loft kind of look in there. So that's super fun. So it is nice to have all of these different projects, to kind of break it up.
Mhm. No, that's great. I'd love to see what you do with the kitchen when it gets done also. So I'll keep an eye out for the posts. Um, Now, the clients are diverse and representing different aesthetics and whatnot. What have you found to be some of your best avenues for acquiring clients?
Home show, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. We'll
But I
jump into
think,
that in a minute.
yeah, home show. What we keep track of where our clients come from. This past year, which is what you always want a young business to achieve, is that I would say more referrals, right? And I am also kind of surprised and pleased by the number of clients. We had a client the other day who said, "I've been stalking you on Instagram for a year and a half, waiting until I could afford to do my dream spa basement." And I was like, "Oh, that's lovely, right? You don't even know they're out there, and then you get a really cool project." So I think there's been more reach there. But again, I'll stress we are a young company. So we're just starting, ideally you want everything to be referrals. You really don't even, you want to get to a point where you don't even need marketing. But we've tried different kinds of marketing, and really the best one has been the home show, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And for the listeners who haven't seen your Instagram yet, everything you do is very design oriented. You have a huge bullpen of designers. And the photography, I think, is really part of the excellence there. So do you have photographers in the office that is one of your existing team, or do you contract that out? Or
Like, do you mean specifically for social media?
yeah, and even your website, like the project photos are wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. We work with a couple of really talented photographers. When a project ends, we professionally photograph it, and we work with KMP Photography in Calgary and also Cadence Photography. Am I missing anyone, Audrey?
Those are the two that I've worked with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're great. For Instagram, we often just that's a tough to hire a videographer for because we kind of do it ourselves. I'm the worst at it, but we find that there's sort of like the stories or the reels or whatever that Cynthia and our team has been putting together. They're very kind of of the moment, and then the what I would call the pretty pictures are always professionally.
Yeah, I think you're a good testament that the mix of both can go a long way. So like you had that prospect who said like I stalked you for a year, which I think there's like two nuggets in there. Like a lot of the people that we talk to, they think that if they're marketing that people find them and immediately start a project with them. But like this person is watching you for a year, so like the sales cycle of starting a renovation is significantly longer than I think a lot of people expect. And they were just looking at your Instagram. So it was like the daily things of like, what's going on? What are you doing? Showing your process, showing happy people and happy team.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's been it's certainly very organic, and we do find because again we're a female-led construction company that we're often pigeonholed as designers only, but we are primarily a renovation company, and so we try to reflect that in our social media. Um, Kind of a third, and a third. Like a third would be day in the life of, which people really like to see because they're just fun and they're not professionally done. They're just kind of here's what we're doing today. Um, I would say a third would be actually showing the renovation work. The most popular Instagram story that we or post that we've done was the raising of a very complicated stairway with glass sides, and it kind of went viral. I was shocked. I was like, okay, how could this? To me, it didn't seem like a super exciting post, but just over and over again, people were watching it because it was a very heavy stairway, and it was creamed, and I think people I guess like seeing that. And then a third is just like here's how your house is going to look afterward because that's what we want. I'm super excited because my crew, my team, in about 10 days is booked for my styling day. So I cannot wait because I don't know, there's some of the most fun days because you start with a blank slate and it's kind of shocking how, you start at 9 and at 5 o'clock, the house is done, curtains are steamed, it's a big crew to do that, but it's a 1 day turnaround. Hey, Audrey?
Yeah, they're fun.
You go on site for those, Audrey?
Yeah, not every project, but often. Yeah.
So a few episodes ago, we interviewed a builder in Nashville who was actually on episode of the Property Brothers. Familiar with those guys? And he was saying that their build schedule was so rapid that furniture was being delivered and they were trying to bring it into the house while they were still building the house. So he's like, you can't do this. Like, there's an order here, like all that stuff has to like go somewhere or else it's going to get ruined, in the process. So that's funny. Well, I want to definitely dig into home shows. So you at this point are a multi-year veteran of home shows. So, and I know before we started recording, you kind of talked about the learning curve of like your first and onward. So if you would just kind of walk us through what you've learned there and your processes.
Yeah, so our first home show, I was telling Kevin pre-show, um, I kind of felt like that was the next step that we needed to take, and so um, we literally just moved my living room to the home show booth. I don't even think we did anything but that. Maybe put a bowl out of like lollipops for kids or something, and um, and we didn't realize at the time. It makes me laugh. The booths would come automatically with, or just as with curtains, like you didn't get walls, and I didn't even realize that. So we had this weird curtained living room space, and if I go back and look at the pictures, it's sort of, I kind of love it because I think there we were with, just kind of like, well, we'll just try it and see. And, that's the year we just doubled income because we had a presence. We still, though, we were still being pigeonholed into design only. So I guess a couple of years ago, I decided it was time to properly invest in the home show. So we designed a kitchen, a proper kitchen for our booth. I think it looks lovely. It actually won best booth overall the first time we debuted it. And but again, we're a young company, so for the first couple of times, it was sort of on a kind of on a, what do they say, like very lean budget. And now it's a pretty seamless affair. Like everything to the home show goes to our CCAN, it comes back in. Very different than what we did in the first couple of years. I think we've designed it as a bit transitional, which is a really popular design style. So not traditional, not modern, but kind of in between. But we added some unique touches to it, to just mostly to show clients, here are some things you can do with your countertop. Or we went to an antiques market and picked up a gorgeous old kind of butcher table and turned it into an island, just to show clients, sort of a mix between modern and new. And those are and I think that really kind of was a game changer, because that year there, again, just kept going up in terms of brand recognition, in terms of clients visiting our booth. And of course now, in the first year or two, there were 3 of us. And we were exhausted because it's really a bit of a 5-day affair, right? Because there's a setup on Thursday. Friday is the home show, Saturday, Sunday. And these home shows don't seem to end before, I don't know, midnight. Like they go on and on. And then Monday is takedown. And so that's exhausting for 3 people. We have now, it's a lot more fun for me now because it can be like a 4-hour shift. And you really, Audrey's, as she did tell me before we even did a home show, she said, I'm a pro at the home show. And she is actually. She'll pull people into the booth. But they do seem naturally attracted to come and see what do we do, because we changed our signage. It was all very professional and just meant for the show.
Audrey, you're going to comment on your expertise at home shows there?
She's a natural.
I just like talking to people, so I just trick them into the booth with candy. I'm like, hey, do you want some candy? They're like, yeah. And I was like, how about a Reno? Would recommend to others.
Nice. Oh, that's great. And I think I'm curious, so do you find any patterns in, I guess, like the buying cycle of people in the home shows? Like, do you have to do a lot of follow-up after the fact? Do you have that kind of like automated, or, sort of like do you do any pre-marketing or any post-marketing?
No, well, just on Instagram, we'll say, home show next week, come and visit us. Nothing beyond that. I would say it's been very consistent. There was one year where I think the temperature was, in the minus 50s. It was awful. We lost the home show lost power, so everybody was wearing puffers. Nobody was there. That was a one-off, though. Typically, Well, I guess I'm pleased to say that this last home show, people were contacting me before I even had a chance to contact them. So, you know, we don't sit on leads. We'll get on them pretty quickly. But I had a lot of people saying, I really want to speak to you like right away, which was nice.
Do you find any differences between like your customer outside of a home show and inside of a home show? Like, is their intent or I guess cadence any different?
I think the non-home show clients tend to be younger and find us on social media.
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I guess like demographically, what is a young client?
I'd say that sort of 30 to 35-year-old client, they've bought their first home. They might not have children yet. They're planning for it. Um, and they have found us in different ways. Mhm.
And I guess in terms of future, you recommend your local home shows? Like you plan on continuing to participate?
Well, I absolutely would. Yeah, I think that it's been really key to building their business.
I would say I did a trade show I am in a suburb right outside of Calgary. So I did a trade show there, and I would say that it was not very successful for me with my own business. I think that doing the renovation or like a home show specifically is definitely where it's at, not just, a general trade show.
It's interesting, Kevin, because we've always done the January home show because it's the home renovation show. So that has made the most sense for us. And before I went in that show, I did, go to a previous home show and ask some of the bigger companies, what are the more successful shows? And they said, well, the renovation show is if they're coming in January after Christmas and they are willing to spend money in January, they are coming specifically for a renovation. Then we did try the September home show, which was successful for sure. But I would say that the January renovate the show geared to renovation is probably our most successful show. In Calgary, they have a February show, which is like I think Audrey, it's a home and garden. It's more for planning for the summer. So I went to that just as a guest, not as a vendor. And it was very surprising the difference between, the January show had 1 million renovators and building companies, and the February show had a very, very different vibe. Even though my understanding from my rep at the home show is that the February show is it's significantly more well attended than the January show, but January are very focused people. And they do market it very, very heavily, right, Audrey? Like the Calgary home shows are really marketed.
I wonder if there's anything to tie into like a New Year's resolution where they're trying to make like big changes at the turn of the year, It's like the momentum of everybody wanting to do new things.
And also the thought, I want it done before summer, which when you start planning in January, that's still tricky. But
I was going to say
Yeah,
that.
those are planful customers, right? They think if we get started now, we should kind of have an idea by March, which is true. They should, if they're working with the right company, and then start maybe, late spring, and like those are thoughtful clients. And when I talk about red flag clients, for me, it's often clients who are too eager. The client who is more thoughtful and really wants to kind of wait and maybe check out some other companies, they're spending their money wisely. So when they choose us, they're, I think, really solid and invested in house.
Hmm. Yeah, they've taken their time and done their homework. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, that's a good.
Sure. So I guess for somebody who is thinking about their first home show, are there any best practices that you would recommend for someone starting out in that?
I'm not sure our first home show was the best practices, nor our second, nor our third. But as you know, as a starting out company, I think you know, budget is important. Probably being friendly and open. If you don't have the setup that everybody else does at that point, I think you need And this is what I love about my team. Audrey's a great example of it, um, and everyone on our team. Just really friendly and welcoming. We have a good laugh ourselves, and I think people feel really comfortable with that, right? It's and typically there are two or three of us on at the same time, so there you can already see the the camaraderie between our team. It's not just one of us sitting at a booth or a person sitting at a booth. It's us, and we'll talk and talk and talk. If someone brings plans, we'll look them over. We're pretty uh, what's the right word, Audrey? Like we're pretty welcoming and
And collaborative, yeah.
yeah, collaborative, and we're happy to share our knowledge, right? We don't hide it. It's like, do you want us to take a quick look? I mean, there are people on our team who would be better to look at a plan than someone else, but we're all happy to take a look over it and get back to them if they have a question. I mean, often our discovery calls after the home show, we are swamped. Like we can have, I think the last one there were maybe 200 forms filled out. Now, of those, not all of them were, super serious. We do kind of rank them to say people who want to get started right away or they have a reasonable
Yeah.
budget. So it's a lot. It's a lot to get back to people. But I think we're all happy if the client or potential client doesn't choose to go with us, then we're really happy to like guide them in the right direction. You know, that's
I would
nice.
also add that having paper lead sheets to fill out as a trade show is very, very important. My first year that I did a trade show, I had lead sheets on my laptop, and I'm like, great, paperless, go me. Um, it really detracted from the client's interest. They felt like I was disengaged. So I think having that paper, and then because you get so many leads potentially, if you're doing a good job catching those, um, marking them A, B, and C, or like having a little note for yourself of which ones are like the really strong leads so you can follow up with them first. You're going to have a lot to do afterwards. So making sure you have a bit of a guide of, you know, what's the most important place to start.
That's an excellent point because in the first couple of years for us, when we did the January home show, um, I mean, and again, we just, we keep refining our systems, but, um, I think we can all tell if we have a client who's like, I'm not going to start until next year. So it's not that that's a bad client. It's just that we're not going to contact them immediately because we have other clients who might say, expecting a baby in 9 months, hoping we can do our bathroom before the baby comes. That's an A client because we know that's a time pressure, right? Or we might have a client who says, this is what I want done. This is my budget. We know it's reasonable. Like we, as a house crush, know they're kind of checking all the boxes. That's an A lead. And in the first couple of years, we did have intake sheets, but nothing was categorized or, we just didn't take the care. So I remember thinking in that after our first home show, I'm just going to contact like 5 people a week because I think I'll be inundated by doing more than that. And then so I sent 5 out and heard nothing back, and five, and finally, I was like, so what we do now is we, as Audrey says, we kind of, I hate to say rank. It doesn't mean that's a more important client. It just means there are elements to that client's project that make it more timely or more realistic. So, I just send it out now like dozens at a time because, you could send out, Kevin, maybe you could send out 25 and you might hear 5 back. And that's good to hear right away because you still have to book the call, So I think we've become pretty good at it. Hey, Audrey?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I really like to prepare. So I would probably have, a template of what I'd be sending to those people beforehand, like a general guide. Every email out would get a little bit personalized based on the project, but having that ready to go because it is very overwhelming. And then if you are doing a giveaway, just making sure that you have the sheets and with a box that says like specifically whether they want to be added to your mailing list, because most people will just check it. So getting that permission and getting people on your mailing list. They say now it takes 35 touch points for someone to actually recognize your business. So, getting a mailing.
Lost Audrey.
We lost you, Audrey.
We can edit that. Don't worry.
Okay. I would say also what's really helpful at a home show because, at times, of course, at certain times of the day, it's a bit dead, and then other times you're just inundated. Um, it's really good to have, we have little postcards that explain the important things about our company, Kevin. So it might be like, a complimentary consultation, fixed cost pricing, might mention, where to, well, of course, it would mention where to find us. And so I know myself, if I were at a home show, I wouldn't necessarily want to do a big intake interview right away. Some people do; they really want to chat about the project. My personality is, I would just want to kind of be on the margins of the crowd and grab the postcard and then look it up later, look up the Instagram, do my own research. We find those cards go really quickly. We ran out this year actually, which surprised me. And a lot of people got a hold of us that way. Like I've never had a home show where I've had so many people reach out and say, we visited you or we saw you at the home show. We didn't talk to you, but we were really impressed.
Yeah. Do you know? Do you have like a process for how long after the show you will continue to reach out to the leads?
I always say to my team, like we jump on leads quickly. If someone, especially if someone's been to the home show, they've potentially spoken to, a dozen renovators. I think we stand out for a lot of reasons, and I know we're a special team. So I want them to know that too. So typically within those first few weeks after a home show, we have gone through our A's or B's or C's. And if it's a C kind of potential client, it's a client who maybe isn't just in such a rush. So we'll say, apologies for the delay, or it's taken us a couple of weeks to get to you. We see that your project, you're not looking at it to do it for another year. So let's start chatting now. And just being transparent. We've had some clients with more timely projects, but we're very interested in yours. So yeah, I would say in the first few weeks, it's exhausting. In the first few weeks, we reach out to everybody and we send them, our information, our certifications, our memberships, our insurance, just and references, so that they can do their own homework. Because I think that's what I would look.
Yeah. No, I mean that's. I think you might be the first person I've interviewed who sends all that information preemptively. It basically just like here's, like you said, transparency is one of your values. So if you're sort of like, here's the insurance, here's references, here's everything. I think that's very unique. I haven't heard that before. So yeah, that's cool. Um, let's see. So you guys are serving a lot of people and you're doing a lot of different projects. Do you have favorite services that, whether you feel like that's what you're best at or whether you like doing the most? Like, is there something that
That's a good question. I think that would be a different answer for all of us on the team. So if you asked me, I have a real love of old homes,
Mhm.
and they're the trickiest and they present the most challenges. But I love nothing more than a 100-year-old house that we can knock open. And believe me, like that's a tough renovation. But we don't get a lot of them just because there are more people who have newer homes. Um, if you ask Jackie on my team, she loves the whole boho aesthetic. She's amazing at it. She's amazing at, you know, um, everything she does. She's really a natural, but, everybody's a bit different. I think Michelle on our team is very, very big on mid-century, but so am I. So yeah, and so that's what's it's fun to have a collaborative team where we can say, okay, so we've got this amazing mid-century home. What do we do with it? And everybody's like, oh, mid-century, I love it. So I do try and match our designers. Calgary is geographically large, and so we are in 4 quadrants. and half of my team lives right outside of the city, so on the northwest side. And then I've got lots of crew on the southeast. So I do my best. It's hard to do, but I do my best to kind of match if I can by quadrant. But if there's a special job that comes up where I know someone on our team, so I think specifically of Allison on our team, she's an amazing stylist, and she is more the maximalist on our team. There are some jobs where that's got to be an Allison job,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's fun that way. I think my job as the owner of House Crush is to, um, most of my job is, communicating with my team and with my crew. And I really want everybody to have opportunities to do work that really fulfills them and isn't just, one way kitchen after another.
It's such a wonderful asset to have all those different aesthetics in house. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Super fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like so many styles, right? And we all do, but we do each have a special little love of something. And so if that comes up, then I really try and consider that.
So my wife and I used to live in Brooklyn and sort of gravitated towards the bohemian aesthetic down there, and then sort of we live in the Hudson Valley now, so we started sort of mid-century rustic maybe,
Lovely.
and then now my wife's calling it like the grandma chic or whatever, something like that, where we go antiquing a lot, and we have an old house, so it suits it nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have a project right now that we're really excited about in that grandma chic category.
Yeah.
But the client my God, her taste is as good as I think ours is. So that's really fun because, she wants to be involved. And it's great when a client says to us, can you help me? I just don't know what my style is. That's fun. But it's also really fun when a client says, I want grandma chic and this is what I'm thinking. And so we get to kind of, one of my design team, in this case it would be Jackie and Sophia, will really hone into what's going to make her super happy. And there's really, like I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't realize until I started this business how really important home was to people. And so it's a really, believe me, there are parts of our job which just feel never ending, or for me, deficiency work, just, you're trying so hard. We try and close out any deficiencies in a couple of weeks, but sometimes you get a bit of bad luck and you can't do it for a client. But the very best thing is seeing a client say, this is not just what I was looking for, it's even better.
Hmm. Yeah, it's. I'm sure people have probably gotten sentimentally weepy, sort of like seeing the results, coming in.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, they do. They really do, and you can imagine. I mean, that's a lovely part of the job. Yeah.
Yeah. So, since you've been in business for 6 years, have you seen any kind of like service trends or material trends, or like how have things changed from how you started to now? I know, certainly we sort of talked about like the economic volatility, changing materials and things, but I'm just curious if you're seeing any kind of.
What I'm seeing is that material costs. We have a great bookkeeper, Grant, and he's our non-female team member, but he's lovely and so talented. And we have regular meetings as well, and he pointed out that the cost of materials has doubled. Now that it's interesting because we're discussing, and also Daniel on my team, who's our site supervisor, the one that I work with most closely, has said to me, he's been saying it for a while, materials are going up. It's just, gas prices and, just transport of them. But I was surprised to see they doubled in one way that doesn't affect us because we do fixed cost pricing. So it's not as though I'm given a quote by my trade person and then in their final invoice, they tell me, oh, that's gone up. They don't do that. Like, they know we do fixed cost pricing, so they're fixed, we're fixed for the client. So we're a little bit kind of it's a question mark right now. Like what? So it's not that it's changing our final bills. It's just interesting to see that our labor costs are holding for the most part, but the materials have gone up double in 1 year.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I saw, so I'm a member of the National Association of Home Builders, and even the regulatory, the cost in preparing land for a house and building the house on it uh, is basically like 160,000 US just for the regulatory compliance before you've actually built anything, and that number has like doubled in the past 10 or 15 years. So
Is that just for permitting, Kevin? Like just
I think it's a combination of permitting and then how the land has to be treated in the preparation for the sites. And I don't. I'll have to see if that was a national average, but a lot of states have passed laws about sprinkler systems in residential homes,
so
and
it all adds up then.
really just all in. Maybe energy efficient appliances and whatnot. And the U.S. Has like a housing shortage, so it just seems like they need more houses, but they've made it twice as hard to build a house as what it was 10 years ago.
Well, we have that in Canada as well. Of course, housing shortage, particularly for well, I have, as I said, a 19 and 21 year old, and um, you know, how will they afford any of these homes? And in Calgary, it's about to be repealed, but they opened up a lot of the building codes to allow multi-development homes. But I think that benefits the developer often because we're not. I know pricing. I don't know the New York pricing. I would say it's, well, of course, much higher than Calgary, but as a comparison, the average Canadian home, I believe, in Calgary is between that $500,000 and $600,000 mark, and that
I
would be
think,
a
did we
very nice
lose
home.
everything?
But how does a 19-year-old afford $500,000 home right now? Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. There was a little blip for a second. I don't know if my power flickered or what, but it like paused me for a moment. Today, as an aside, the weather where I'm at today has been like kind of not thunderstormy, but very blustery, and so the power all day has kind of done weird things. So sorry if I was. Am
Yeah,
I?
no worries. No, all good.
Let's see. So you mentioned earlier using AI as a visualization tool. Are you using AI in any other capacity in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I was My career prior to this was as a professional writer, and so I would never consider using AI for copywriting, but I'm doing it all the time now because it is, well, first of all, AI is a pretty good writer. And, at times I need, for me, of course, part of my job as opposed to the rest of my team is strategy, um, like kind of those higher level documents where, as opposed to maybe processes, more strategic documents. So I will put in my thoughts, and it's amazing what comes out, and saves me so much time. We're very, very busy right now, which is great after this funny kind of fall where, the whole tariff uncertainty and financial uncertainty hit a lot of our potential customers. So I don't think I've ever been so busy, just personally or certainly from a business point of view. And AI is helping me personally with copywriting, with preparing documents. It's helping my team, which is really helping ultimately my clients with renderings of projects that they, we had a meeting a few weeks ago. We do a lot of, which are really satisfying, kitchen makeovers. So they're not necessarily full guts, but we will take maybe an aged kitchen with, if the layout is good, there's a lot we can do. We can strip backsplash, countertops, new sinks, faucets, but it's so much cheaper than gutting an entire kitchen, right? And then we will either create new doors or spray the existing kitchen. So we can take a very dated, let's say oak kitchen, like yellow honey oak, or what was really popular maybe 10 years ago, which are those really dark brown cabinets, and we'll pick. We never do just like a stark white because it always looks like a home show or a show home. Um, but we'll pick like a really nice maybe a softer color, brighten it up a little bit, change out the pendants. In any case, to get to your point, is that Cynthia on my team, we did a whole design presentation, which is quite intensive. And then Cynthia took a before picture and an AI representation using the materials that one of our lead designers gave her. And the clients, when we showed it to the clients, he actually kind of went like this and said, "Oh my gosh, this is what my kitchen's going to look like." And I said, "Yeah, exactly like that." So he said, "I am sold." He said, "I had no idea it would look that good." So it's really, it's hard to explain sometimes to clients what we can do. And this is making it a lot easier. Sophia on my team just looked at a design concept that she did for a new bathroom, and it's gorgeous. And she used AI, but it's not as though we're asking AI to design for us. We're saying, here are our chosen materials, here's our drawing, here's our space plan, or here's a photo of the actual space. Please style it using X, Y, and Z. So there's definitely collaboration there, and but it like what we're creating, which is so great, is we're able to show the client like, yeah, that's the literal color because we tell AI show them this in a particular color by Benjamin Moore, and we'll give all the specs, and in seconds and then we put that into our design concept, and the clients are just thrilled because it's making it so real.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful amplifier. So, as you said, with your writing, it can write the way that you write faster and in a more scalable way. And the same thing with design. Yeah, I'm so fascinated by it.
I am too. I think it's just going to be used more and more. I hope responsibly, but um, when if I'm doing any creative writing, of course, that's a different, completely different situation. But if I'm trying to get a quick strategy document out for a team meeting, um, I just need to dump my thoughts in there, and then it's ready. And I don't have the time to really spend half a day writing it, so it's great. Yeah.
And earlier, Audrey mentioned Notion. Are there any other softwares that you're using to manage projects?
Um, I think we've landed on Notion over a couple of years of trying other things. There is one app that I really am interested in. I just haven't had time to fully um, investigate it. I think it's called Company Cam. And so, what the one thing about when you're in this industry is your photo roll, your personal photos in your phone are nothing but knob and tube, and how are we solving this? And oh, look, we, before pictures of houses, and like it just, and then occasionally my dog. And like, so there's an app, I'm sure it's called Company Cam, that you can just designate projects, and very easy to use for different projects. So it doesn't clutter up your personal, um, you know, collection of photos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Check that out. That's interesting. And
Mhm.
same boat. My photos are not organized at all.
No, and who has time, right? Like yeah, it's a really busy industry. This is the busy season, um, and so we. What I really appreciate about my team is that for a long time I didn't have even an assistant, so I did a lot of the administrative work. I now work with Patty, and Patty was getting so busy that we gave her an assistant who's that young, fresh out of school, Cynthia, who's doing great. And I just think you really, at some point in a company, if you want to scale, if you want to grow your company, you need to bring in people. And in our case, we've really brought in the right.
And so there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said. And so, sort of expanding on that, I always ask if someone is a newcomer in this industry, what would you give them for advice?
I feel like I'm a bit of an outlier, Kevin, in that I started this company at 53 with not a ton of knowledge in a very male industry. So I'm gonna, I guess, say I think anybody can do it.
Sure, don't shortchange yourself. Your acumen
um,
definitely comes through.
Thank you. I think I hope I'm quoting the right source, but I think the best business book I've ever read, and I give it to my team or to friends even, is called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the author, popular author. Um, and sort of it's not my quote. I believe it's from him, which is communication is marketing. Period. And so that is the advice that I will absolutely say is communication. Like, don't be afraid to say to your clients, no, I'm not a professionally trained designer, but look what we've produced. Or, no, I don't actually do that, but I have a team that, we have an amazing team. And that's my team, but we also work with wonderful people who do permittings. Um, we work with a building partner on projects that we might be too busy or they might be too big for us, but we're very engaged, right? We also work with him to do the design for some of his projects. I've always wanted to for this company to be just part of a big group of talented people who bring their ideas, um, and they've just kept bringing great ideas. Um, I think for clients more than anything, communication is the most important thing because, again, as I said, home is home, and we have a job right now that's really tricky, and um, the clients couldn't be lovelier, but we want them to, we want all of our clients to know we really care. Like we can end as with every industry, but I'm sure you can attest to is that things go wrong sometimes, and we will absolutely do our best to make it right. But if we hide from the clients or don't get back to them right away, that's a problem. We do a weekly check-in. We say, here's what happened this week. Here's what's happening next week. Someone from my team is always on site, and Daniel, our site supervisor, is there to check that it's being done. So it's all, but that's only, and more importantly than anything, communication.
Yeah, and Audrey actually messaged us from the sidebar and said, "Don't pretend you know something if you don't. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be willing to find them."
100%. Yeah. Yeah. She's 100% right. Yeah.
And so this is kind of a tangent of that. Well, not a tangent. Basically, an alternate of that same kind of question. If you had to restart House Crush tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I don't think I would start my launch party, which involved House First started with an old house that my husband and I owned in downtown Calgary. And Jackie and I, the only two House Crush members at that time, put our heart and soul into this 100-year-old home, and it looked beautiful. Um, I couldn't possibly have known this, but our launch party was March 13th, 2020. I might have had that launch party a month earlier.
Tough timing. I've really been amazed how many businesses started either right before COVID or sort of during it and are still doing wonderfully.
Well, I think sometimes people didn't have a choice, right? So some of the members on my crew were let go because of COVID, and wonderful work, like wonderful, talented, such decent people. But I think everybody. I hope. Well, actually, I believe that if you are talented and have integrity and you're skilled, you'll find your place. But that was a really, really tough time because I had left the company I was working with. Um, I had put a ton of of my own money into this renovation, thinking any of the work I had done before that for the other company, those photos didn't belong to me. I couldn't use them for my portfolio. So I created my own first portfolio, and I was lucky enough to do so. Um, you know, couldn't of course have timed COVID, but then we got a customer and then another customer, and we just kept working through it. And um, it's funny, Kevin, because you would think right now with how busy we are that the one thing that wouldn't excite me, but is the only thing right now that's exciting me, is the design of my new house. So I think I'm in the right industry.
Sure, you can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, well, it's about time to land it, in which case we always wrap up with one question, and that's asking if you have a topping off tradition, either when you complete a structure or when you complete a project. How do you celebrate or not?
You know, that's a great question that deserves an answer. And no, we don't really. I mean, at the end of a project, our clients are gifted. I try and remember my design leads who wrapped the project up. Um, Thank you for giving me that, because that'll be the topic at our next team meeting on how we want to wrap up our projects, because some of them take months and a lot of work and a lot of effort. So yeah, I think we do need a tradition.
I really liked, I'm going to shout out Antoinette Kamsopa from one of my local, she's actually in my local Chamber of Commerce. She's probably still my favorite celebration. She would buy herself a pair of sneakers on every project. So she would have like a really cool pair that every time she wear them, she would say, "Oh yeah, I love doing this, light commercial project or this home build or something like that." So that was pretty unique.
Oh, well, actually, that just triggered something for me. Is that at the beginning, I would buy myself a piece of art, not necessarily an expensive piece, but whatever I liked. And then my husband just said, we literally have run out of walls. I love the sneaker tradition, but I'd have to buy 9 pairs of sneakers, so I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out.
Well, I was kind of teasing her. I said, "Well, I'm sure you have enough sneakers now." And her husband's a master carpenter. I said, "Your husband, probably had to make you a shoe closet." She said, "Oh yeah, that's already done." Audrey gave a +1 on the sneakers. She liked
Yeah,
it as well.
Audrey likes her shoes. Yeah, Audrey doesn't need high heels. She's very tall,
Yeah,
but she likes them.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, again, thank you very much to you and Audrey for coming on the show. And I want to make sure that if there's people who want to get in touch with you or follow along, where can they find you?
Oh, so we're at online, of course. Our website is housecrush.ca. On Instagram, we're at housecrushyyc, which is the Calgary version. I think we're on Facebook. I don't, to be honest, handle all of that. So yeah, we'd be on Facebook. Um, yeah, and we're always really happy to take a call, even if we're not your ultimate company of choice. We really can't stop talking enough about design. And yeah, I think we like to share our ideas in whatever format or venue.
Sure. Well, again, thank you both again very much. This is wrapping up another episode of the Topping Off podcast. If this was valuable to you, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment about a favorite thing that you learned, and we will see you next time. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been a real pleasure.